Most people who grow tomatoes at home make at least one of these 5 mistakes. And the sad part? They never even know it's happening. They water their plants every day, give them plenty of sun, and still end up with yellow leaves, cracked fruits, or tiny tomatoes that never seem to grow big. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. Millions of American backyard gardeners face this exact problem every single season. But today, that changes for you. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what is killing your tomato plants quietly and how to fix every single one of these mistakes starting this weekend. And stick around until the end, because mistake number 5 is something almost nobody talks about, and it might be the single biggest reason your tomatoes are not producing the way they should. Let's start with mistake number 1. You are watering your tomatoes the wrong way. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can watering be wrong? Water is water, right? Wrong. Here is what most people do. They grab the hose every morning, spray the whole plant from top to bottom for a few minutes, and walk away feeling good about it. But here is the problem. When you water the leaves and stems from above, that water sits on the plant. It does not dry quickly. And that wet surface becomes the perfect home for fungal diseases like early blight and septoria leaf spot. These diseases spread fast and can take down an entire plant within weeks. But there is more. When you water a little bit every single day, the roots of the tomato plant stay near the top of the soil. They never go deep. And shallow roots mean a weak plant that cannot handle summer heat or dry spells. Here is the science behind this. Tomato roots are incredibly smart. They grow toward moisture. If you water deep and slow, the roots chase that water down into the cool, moist layers of the soil. Those deep roots anchor the plant better, pull up more nutrients, and keep the plant alive even when the top of the soil looks dry. The fix is simple. Water deeply, but less often. Give your tomato plants a good, long drink at the base of the plant, right at the soil level, every 2 to 3 days. Let the water soak down 6 to 8 inches. And never water the leaves. If you can, use a soaker hose or a drip system. Your plants will reward you with faster growth and bigger fruits. This one change alone can double your tomato harvest. But wait, the next mistake is even sneakier because it is something most gardeners actually think they are doing right. Mistake number 2 is planting your tomatoes too shallow. This one surprises a lot of people. When you buy a tomato seedling from the nursery, it is usually about 6 to 8 inches tall. Most people dig a small hole, pop the plant in just deep enough to cover the root ball, and call it a day. Big mistake. Tomatoes are one of the very few plants in the world that can grow roots right out of their stem. If you look closely at the hairy little bumps along the tomato stem, those are actually waiting to become roots. They are called adventitious roots, but just think of them as hidden roots ready to explode. If you bury 2/3 of the stem underground, all those little bumps turn into real roots within days. More roots means more water, more nutrients, and a much stronger plant overall. So here is what I do. I dig a deep hole or even a long trench, and I lay the tomato plant on its side at an angle, burying most of the stem and leaving only the top few inches of leaves above ground. The plant will naturally reach up toward the sun within a day or 2. This simple trick gives your tomato plant the root system of a plant 3 times its age. Try it once and you will never go back to shallow planting again. Now mistake number 3 is one that makes me cringe every time I see it in a neighbor's garden. It is leaving all those suckers on the plant. Suckers are the little shoots that grow in the V-shaped space between the main stem and a branch. They look innocent. In fact, they look like new growth, and many gardeners are actually excited when they see them. But here is the truth. Every sucker that grows becomes a whole new branch, and every branch needs energy. So instead of your plant putting all its energy into making big, juicy tomatoes, it is splitting that energy in 20 different directions. The result? Lots of green leaves, a jungle of a plant, and tiny or very few tomatoes. The fix is to pinch those suckers off when they are small, no bigger than 2 inches. Just snap them off with your fingers. Do this once a week as you walk through your garden, and your plant will focus all of its power on the fruits already growing. One exception. If you are growing small cherry tomatoes, you can be a little more relaxed about this. But for big beefsteak or Roma tomatoes, keep those suckers under control. Mistake number 4 is not feeding your tomatoes at the right time. A lot of gardeners fertilize their tomatoes when they first plant them, and then again whenever they remember. But tomato plants have very different needs at different stages of their life. Early on, they need nitrogen to grow strong green leaves and stems. But once they start flowering, too much nitrogen is actually a problem. Here is why. Nitrogen pushes green leafy growth. If you keep feeding high nitrogen fertilizer after the flowers appear, the plant keeps making leaves instead of turning those flowers into fruits. The flowers may even drop off without producing anything. What you need to switch to once you see the first flowers is a fertilizer that is higher in phosphorus and potassium. These two nutrients tell the plant to focus on roots, flowers, and fruits instead of just growing bigger and bushier. Look for a tomato-specific fertilizer at your local garden store. The numbers on the bag will tell you everything. Once a week feeding after flowering begins is plenty. And now we are at mistake number 5, the one I promised you at the very beginning. This is the mistake that almost no gardening video ever talks about, and yet it affects nearly every single home gardener in America. It is ignoring the soil temperature before you plant. Most people check the weather and plant tomatoes after the last frost date. That is smart. But here is what they miss. Just because the air is warm does not mean the soil is warm. Tomato roots need soil that is at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit to start growing properly. If the soil is still cold and you plant your tomatoes, the roots go into a kind of shock. They sit there doing almost nothing. The plant looks alive above ground, but it is barely surviving below. This cold start sets the plant back by 2 to 3 weeks, and you never fully recover that lost time during the growing season. The fix is almost free. Just go to any garden center and buy a simple soil thermometer. They cost about $5. Stick it in the ground in the morning and check the temperature. If it reads below 60 degrees, wait a few more days. You can also warm the soil faster by covering it with black plastic mulch or even a dark-colored tarp for a few days before planting. The dark color absorbs sunlight and heats the soil underneath much faster. This one tip alone can give your tomatoes a 2 to 3 week head start compared to your neighbors. So let's quickly go over all 5 mistakes one more time. Stop watering from the top and start watering deep at the base. Plant your tomatoes deep by burying most of the stem. Remove suckers regularly to keep the plant focused on fruit. Switch to a low nitrogen fertilizer once flowers appear. And always check your soil temperature before you plant. These are not complicated changes. They are simple, low-cost habits that make a massive difference. And if this video helped you see your garden in a new way, I want you to think about this. Every week at Chill Harvest Garden, we share tips exactly like these. Simple, honest, no-fuss gardening advice that saves you money, time, and frustration. When you subscribe to this channel, you are not just hitting a button. You are joining a community of smart, relaxed gardeners all across America who are growing more with less effort. So go ahead and subscribe. Your best tomato harvest is closer than you think.